In this video, Simon Sinek shares when faced with challenging issues, innovative approaches are necessary.
We, like many, made most of our money from in-person and live events and workshops, and of course that instantaneously disappeared. And so we, like many, were forced to pivot. And we took advantage of online learning, but we wanted to do it consistent with our own values. We did live classes because we wanted to retain some sort of human connection as opposed to just on-demand classes. We called up people who we knew, whose work we admired, and we said, "You're struggling too. Why don't you come and share your genius on our platform?" And it became a very cooperative thing. But there's a few tactics that I learned to get from A to B that were really helpful that I never would have done if I didn't have that extreme pressure. So one of the things we did is we shared with the team the vision, which we had, and then we said to the whole team, we can't do this alone. This is literally a team effort. And so what I want 15 ideas from each person in the next 48 hours about how we can deliver on that vision. And the team freaked out. 15 ideas in 48 hours? And if they wanted to work in teams, I was fine with that. And the reason for that is the pressure. If I gave them 3 weeks, well, they would have all done the work the 48 hours before anyway. So, so that was academic. But the important thing was the reason for 15 ideas is because if I only asked for 2 or 3 or 3 or 4, those would be the same ideas I came up with. And it's the ideas that 11, 12, and 13 that were the brilliant ones. And when we came together to report out, we did it in sort of a unique way. I sort of gave this little speech where I said, okay, this is not a competition. This is about contribution. If one person has 6 amazing ideas and you have none, instead of being angry, say thank you, because they just saved your job because they had a great idea. Also, what I learned is that there's a difference between somebody who has an idea and somebody who's good at executing an idea. And the reality is the most creative people in the team that could come up with the ideas weren't the best at executing them. And the ones that didn't have that many ideas, they were great at executing ideas. So it became really interesting to see who were my creators and who were my executors from that one meeting. And we played Boggle rules. If you've ever played the game Boggle, if somebody else has your word, you just skip over it and move on. I said, if somebody says your idea, don't bother saying, well, I had that idea too. I'm not keeping score, I don't care. Simply move on and tell me something else on your list. And we only let people report out 2 or 3 ideas at a time. That way we could sort of get a flavor. And what ended up happening was people would build on the ideas that they heard. And the set of ideas that we had at the end became our ideas. Nobody could claim them anymore because we'd all sort of tinkered with them. And then we broke them into 3 buckets: green, yellow, and red. A green idea was an idea we could execute with the money we had, and we could execute it within the week. A yellow idea was an idea that needed a little more resource, probably take a week to a month. And a red idea, no matter how good it was too expensive or take too long, and we just parked it and said, we'll deal with those one day. And we just took all our green ideas and executed them.
We have all experienced unproductive brainstorming sessions where one person is late, another dominates the conversation, and someone else only talks about their pets. To ensure that your next meeting of the minds is successful, when dealing with complex issues, it is important to use innovative approaches. To obtain the most effective solutions from our groups, we must be intentional in how we request suggestions and organize brainstorming sessions. Brainstorming should not be limited to just time together in a conference room. Instead, send a brainstorm brief along with the calendar invite that includes the purpose of the brainstorm and any relevant background materials. This way, participants can familiarize themselves with the topic before the brainstorm begins. The facilitator should keep the dialogue flowing while the client should have final say in creative decisions. Create a playful and creative environment. Challenge people to come up with the worst possible solutions to the problem at hand. This activity puts everyone on a level playing field and encourages out-of-the-box thinking. By sharing equally ridiculous ideas, senior-level people in the room give everyone else permission to be unconventional and share their own wild ideas. To prepare for a brainstorming session, it can be helpful to engage in a word exercise that encourages participants to think outside of their usual thought patterns and approach the topic from a more creative perspective. One such exercise is the word storm. Where participants are asked to suggest words related to the topic at hand, considering the word's function, usage, and potential metaphors. It is important for the facilitator to record all suggested words for everyone to see and draw inspiration from. Hiring an external facilitator can also be beneficial as they can guide the discussion and keep it on track without any internal biases or intimidation. Despite the initial discomfort of generating many ideas, it is crucial to brainstorm as many as possible in order to increase the likelihood of discovering a valuable idea. Don't worry if your brainstorming attempts are unsuccessful. There is a final option called brainstorming that usually takes less than 40 minutes. Instead of verbally sharing ideas, have everyone written them down silently.
How can we ensure that we're changing with times, technology, culture, politics, and tastes, rather than just trying to beat our competitor? And you see it across industries. Publishing, for example. The internet showed up and they saw it and they thought it was nice, and they, as it took on, they sort of, I guess they were interested in it, they sort of played defense. And then Amazon showed up and Amazon went to all of them and said, hey, you want to invest in us? And they all said no. Well, now they're all playing catch up. They're all playing defense. Netflix went to Blockbuster and said, want to buy us? And Blockbuster said no. The rest of the TV and movie industry were too busy comparing who had higher ratings, and they completely missed the fact that Netflix has now completely reinvented television. I find that fascinating. General Motors was destroying its own electric vehicles to protect its old business, and now they're all rushing to catch up with Tesla. I think this is hilarious. And it's the little companies, the Netflixes, the Amazons, the Teslas, that get ignored, that aren't seen as a threat, that end up defining and redefining entire marketplaces. Now, this is not unique to small companies. Big companies can absolutely redefine. The problem is big companies are more obsessed with their finite goals. Big companies are more obsessed with beating their competitors, and little companies are obsessed with their vision. Little companies are obsessed with this outsized vision that outstrips the resources they have, right? Somebody says, we're going to do this, and everybody looks around and goes, we don't have the money for that. We don't have the talent for that. I guess we'll have to be creative. And I think this is one of the opportunities for big companies. As they get big, their visions get smaller. They become goals that they can just do a back plan for. There's nothing inherent that a big company shouldn't be innovative. But to your point before, they become risk averse. They become stable. And at the end of the day, it takes huge vision. What I imagine is a huge corporation, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, that someone will say, we imagine a world that's so crazy and so idealistic that in this large corporation, they all look around and go, we don't have the money for that. We don't have the talent for that. I guess we'll have to be creative, which scares the heck out of the investor community. But remember, all of those companies were founded by, whether it's your Steve Jobs or all of these companies, Salesforce, they all started by young people who had no experience and only had vision. And I think there's no reason why big companies cannot be innovative, but I think it's about pushing their own boundaries and allowing for entrepreneurship. And inherent in entrepreneurship is failure. You can't experiment without failing. I remember talking to a CFO of a big company once, and he told me that he has two priorities for the company, innovation and efficiency. I said, good luck with that. There's nothing efficient about innovation because you have to keep trying something over and over again. There's nothing efficient about that. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, companies are obsessed with growth. And everybody, they brag, we're a hyper-growth company. Show me one article, not 10, not 15, show me one article that shows any data that hyper-growth is good for business and good for the company. There is no data to show that companies who are obsessed with growth actually build stronger companies, because they don't. And so it is a fool's errand that is promoted usually by an incentive structure that rewards short-term benefits. I think what companies can do is start to look at their incentive structures and start rewarding things like teamwork, ethics, and long-term gain. And guess what? You'll get the behavior you reward.
Individuals are motivated by a future state that is more compelling and inclusive than the current state. This vision must align with people's aspirations for individual and collective success. To achieve this, a mission must be established which serve as a reason and purpose for action. A credible master plan with clear objectives and step toward the goal must also be in the place. Values are essential to executing the plan as they serve as a social conscience. Leaders must demonstrate altruism and live by the mission, vision, and values to gain trust from their community. Failure to meet milestone may result in losing their mandate. The difference between companies that cling to traditional methods and those that change the game lies in whether their leaders focus on short-term gains or an ambitious vision. Our thoughts are influenced by our upcoming destinations as we are constantly curious about where we will be heading next. For example, you may be currently working and planning to have lunch at noon, return to your desk, and then meet a client at 3 before heading back home. While you may decide to stop by a bookstore on your way home, you already have a clear idea of where you're going. The power of having a vision lies in its ability to inspire us towards an ideal destination that we aspire to reach. It motivates us to embark on an adventure and overcome obstacles in order to achieve our goals. As humans, we are driven by hope and the belief that there is a better future waiting for us. Vision is a powerful tool that conveys this message of hope and inspires us to work hard towards achieving our dreams. We follow leaders who promise us a better future because we believe that there is a better place than where we currently are. Use the inventory provided to create a list of your personal values. Determine what attributes, traits, and principles resonate with you and discard those that are not. Like the video. Thanks for watching. For more videos, like these and please subscribe.